Well, welcome to Zooming with the Coach. Today is Meredith Jameson. She's the head coach of our women's golf team. One of the. I mean, I guess all the programs at WT are successful, but I mean, like you mentioned, Coach, just walk us through your season. And I mean, you guys weren't on the road when it all went down, but I mean, just kind of tell us how you thought the fall went, how you guys were looking heading into the championship portion of your season until it was canceled.
Okay, so this year, we had 3 great seniors. All of them have been All-Americans before, and all season long they did really well. When you go to a golf tournament, they all have between 12 and 20 teams at them. And every tournament except for one that we had played, we placed first or second. And the only one that we did not place first or second was when we played without Lucky, when she had an injury from an accident in the fall.
So, I mean, how did you feel your chances were heading into like the championship portion? Because I mean, you still had the LSU championships, you would have had regionals, and you would have had the national championships. How did you feel that the girls were playing heading in such an important part of the season?
They were all playing so well, and so it was really hard. The day we found out was actually the day I had released them for spring break. I let them go a few days early so that we could come back and practice at the end of spring break to get ready for our final swing heading to the LSC championship. So we had to let everybody know over the phone, but I really liked our odds. We had beat every team in the conference, not every single time, but the girls were playing great. The championship course for regionals in California, we went out there in the fall and did awesome, placed second there. And we went to the course for the national championship and learned it and had great notes and awesome strategy, because that course in Missouri, it's strategy. And we were one of the top ranked teams that had even gone to the preview. So really, I liked the course. I thought the girls were going to do great and go all the way.
So next year, I mean, with the NCAA ruling that, I mean, seniors, they can choose to have a year back. So you'll have Loki back, right?
Mm-hmm.
She can be, and then Holly's back as well. And so Jelena, she's the only one. So I guess we'll ask Jelena. So for you, like, I mean, what has WT meant to you? Because you've done so much here. LSC Academic Golf for the Year, LSC medalist, All-American. I mean, how hard was it not to come back next year? And just talk about your experience at WT.
Yeah, it was a really hard decision for me. So I spent the beginning of this year applying to graduate schools, and I was accepted into University of Central Florida for their MBA program, which I was super excited about, and I'd already accepted my place there, and that was kind of my plan. And then obviously we were hit with this curveball, and I was kind of had to make the decision between staying and going. And for me, I love golf and I'm going to stay within the industry, but I didn't have plans to go pro, kind of like Lucky. So I thought the best thing for me was to, go there and still continue my studies and go out on a high with all the amazing memories I've had at WT. And I mean, for me, so I came from England when I was a freshman, and I would just remember being so nervous. I had no idea what was going to happen. But I mean, we really have such a close team. My teammates became like my best friends and my sisters, and traveled all over the country. And I just met so many amazing people. And I joined different organizations and kind of tried to be a part of WT as much as I could, because I was so far away from home. And I was in the College of Business, which was amazing. I really enjoyed the academic side of being at WT as well as being an athlete. So yeah, I've had the most amazing time at WT. I'll never forget it. I'll always be, a Buff forever. But me moving to Florida and following that side of things, I think was the best decision. But I'll be following golf stat like every week.
Yeah, I mean, if they ever play in Florida, they need another golfer.
Oh yeah,
you
I'm
have
gonna
that
be
extra
there.
eligibility left. So
Yeah.
you just pick and choose. Yeah, I can imagine just how tough that is. But I'm excited for you, and I get Mara. She's on the call too. She's going to UCF as well, roommates, right?
Yeah.
So Coach Jameson, for you, what's a funny story about Jolena that
Oh
you would be willing to share with us?
God.
I'm not going to say anything that would embarrass her too much. But Jolene is one of the smartest people I've ever met. I mean, she had 1B all the way through school, and it was really a new professor that really, truthfully, probably didn't know what he was doing. Other than that, high A's, always turns in her assignments a week early. So she's diligent, she's smart, but she should not be a brunette. She should be blonde about a lot of things.
I'm book smart, but I'm not life smart. Let's just say that.
But really, it's just been so great having Jelena on the team. She has definitely bled into our vocabulary because we call sweaters jumpers now.
Jumpers.
And everyone that plays golf, if you shoot even par, you call it even. Well, I found myself the last couple of years saying, oh yeah, I shot level. That means even in England. And little things like that. So she's definitely left her mark on the team and will be very missed.
Well, we will miss you, Jelena, definitely. But like I said, we'll probably see you around. So Meredith, you're talking about how this year you felt like the team was primed to have another good run. So let's go back to last year. You guys win your first ever LSC team title. And you didn't just win it. Like you blew the doors off everybody else. Had one of the best rounds ever. Like everybody just played so well in that final round. And then you went to regionals, and you guys nearly pulled off an upset over some really, really good teams. And then you went to nationals where you had another solid finish. Just walk us through like championship season last year where you guys had such a strong showing.
Okay, well, you said at the LSC, you talked about our final round a little bit. I don't remember the exact numbers because I have a lot of numbers in my head. But we set the LSC record for single round, total tournament, and I believe 3 of our ladies shot under par the last round. And it was just fantastic. Like all the other coaches were like, how did you guys shoot that? That wasn't on the course that day. And they just really came together, and they played with a lot of guts. We had the regional championship at Amarillo Country Club last year, which is an awesome facility. All of our golf courses are amazing, Tascosa, Paladuro Creek. But at that regional championship, both Holly and Lookie tied for second, and the team placed second as well. So we went into the national championship, and unfortunately, Jelena had been battling tendinitis all spring. And I got up to her, I believe it was the second round, and her hand was so sore she couldn't even grip the club. And she actually had to withdraw that round. But with NCAA rules, she could play this third round. And she did. That really did, hurt the team a little bit. And Jelena was really upset about it. So we placed 10th. We didn't make the postseason, or the bracket. The top 8 get to do match play. And the format switches to medal match. But our team, they did so well. I was so proud of them last year with how they performed, all region players, all Americans. And I think they would have done the same thing this year, truthfully.
So how would have the course, because I guess you went and played in Missouri. I don't want to keep bringing up like what could have been. But how did you feel that your team's strengths were, would have helped you in that course up in Missouri?
Okay, so that course in Missouri, I can't believe the NCAA even picked it for a national championship because scores were going to be high in comparison to other courses we play. It was one of the hardest courses I've ever seen. Off the tee, you had to hit it straight. If you were errant either way on every single hole, it was either going to be lost ball or OB. It was extremely hilly. So one of the things that we were doing as a team was working on our cardio and our endurance, because it was so up and down that the NCAA was even considering us riding in carts for one section of the course because it is so hard to walk. It would be impossible for the girls that use push carts. So we had a couple girls that have used push carts historically, and they started carrying their bag all the way through to prepare for that. And a lot of the other schools, like some of the Florida schools and some of the other Texas and California schools that weren't there, had no idea. So they weren't doing those conditionings. They weren't working on the type of shots that they needed to. And all year after we played that tournament, the focus is, we're going to win the national championship. What can we do to help us get best prepared for that? So yeah, actually today we would be playing in California for the second round of the regional championship.
Yeah, that's I think everybody on this call misses sports.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I don't know. It's not as fun. So do we have any questions for Coach Jameson before we move on? Any questions from those on the call?
Tyson, I'm going to ask a question. I finally got logged in here, and I've got a couple for her.
So you can.
One, I'm having technical difficulties, so I'm struggling. But Meredith, you've kind of got the unique opportunity in that you get to coach with your father, Dr. Tom Easley, serving as your assistant. He's done that now for a couple years with you. Talk a little bit about what he brings to the program.
Well, my father was my coach growing up. I only had a couple swing pros at different periods of my life, and my sisters and cousins as well. So he's been around women's competitive golf for a really long time. Primarily, he makes the girls smile, delivers Gatorade, and a lot of times he'll tell them something like, he told Rachel last year, and I just thought it was so genius. She had made a double bogey out in Arizona and was pouting a little bit. Body language wasn't the best. And he told her, you know, Rachel, that's not the last double bogey you're ever going to make. And she started laughing and then went on a par streak. So he works a little bit with our mental, but he always double checks anything before he tells the girls. And he's just there as an extra support as a second coach.
But the mental aspect is so huge in golf.
It really is. And when he was working with me, he got to see a lot of mental breakdowns through my junior golf and early college career. And so he has seen what works and what doesn't work. And I've given him a lot of mental books to read that I try to incorporate into our mental game with the ladies.
And my second question is, you're now in your 14th season as the Lady Buffs head coach. The program has been strong for a long time, but there was a point about, I mean, it's been a while, it's been a decade or so, where you went from being almost there to where regionals, you were a contender for regionals as well as nationals. When did that come about, and was there a particular point or time or player that got you to that step?
Okay, so when I was a player and then in my first couple years coaching, we had very little scholarship money. I remember my first or second year coaching, I was recruiting a girl out of Snyder, Texas, who's actually now a college coach that I coach against, and we laugh about it because I gave her the biggest scholarship offer I could. I offered her a whopping $2,000, okay? And I lost her to a D3 because she could get more academic money. And she was a great player. And so then fast forward another year or two, and I just had my first son. I've been at the home for about a week. He's a week old, and I'm taking a nap. And I've told the story, so if you've heard it before, you know, bear with me, but it's just a great one. So we had house phones back then. Jimmy answered the phone. My husband is like, hey, this person asked for Coach Jameson. Like, maybe you should take this. So I get on the phone, and Lookie, ignore my Thai accent, but this guy said, my niece in town, Thailand, you watch her tomorrow? Okay, like, it was just so off the wall. So I went to the golf course the next day, you know, 7-8 days after having our son, and I watched Hammerly play 9 holes. I offered her a full scholarship on the spot. I had no money. And afterwards, I called Michael McBroom. I said, hey, I have the chance to change our program. This is what I've done. And he said, great, let's do it. And from that point on, we worked all the way up to being fully funded with our scholarships, with a lot of help from the Ryan Palmer Foundation. The Buffalo Club has been amazing, and all of the donors. And that's really what allowed us to go from being one of the worst in the conference to being the best in the LSC.
And you mentioned Hammerly. She still stays in close contact with the program right now.
Yes, and she worked as our volunteer assistant when she was working on her PhD, and then when she was teaching as a professor at another university. So I've probably had the most educated assistant coaches of any golf program in the country, because we've had 2 volunteer assistants and they're both doctors.
Tyson, I'm going to have to throw it back to you to ask questions because I'm unable to see our participants on the call here. Are you good with that?
Hi, Captain. So does anybody else have any questions for Coach Jameson? I have quite a few. Casey, we'll go down to Casey Lish.
Okay, so I had the pleasure of spending a little bit of time with you when you took over the men's team for a short period of time. And I really kind of got to figure out how you ticked a little bit. But one thing I was curious is, during that time frame, it seemed like it was a little bit of chaos. How did you handle doing both programs? And in my opinion, doing both programs, pretty successful, even though there was no competition for the ladies at that time.
Yes, so it was definitely a balancing act. What I allowed the most is I let my home life duties slip. Not being a mom, but I might have gone like a month without vacuuming my house, little things like that. But it was okay coaching the men and the women, because our women had such strong leadership in our seniors and they knew what to do. So I actually focused more on the men during that period, because they really and a lot of just knowing that we believed in them at that period in time. And so I worked a lot of one-on-one with those guys, and still I talk to them, even though Axel Ochoa has been hired as our men's coach and is doing an awesome job. I really respect Axel a lot as a coach. But that relationship is what they needed. So I worked a lot on that.
And I'm not sure if you can actually see the gallery view or not, but Axel just jumped on as you said that. So.
Oh, that's so funny. I can't. Hey, Axel.
Jerry, do you have a question?
Question. Meredith, I don't want to embarrass you, but how many appearances have you made, has your team made at the national tournament, and how many Lone Star Conference Coaches of the Year have you been named?
Okay, so I've had 3 LSC Coaches of the Year. I think 3.
Yeah.
I don't really keep up with those stats. I'm more into our girls' putting stats, fairways hit, things like that. And then as far as our national championship appearances, we went in 2009. That was our first time to make it as a team. And then we had made it the last 4 years in a row. In addition to that, we've had 3 years individuals went. I went twice, and Glory Jongsong Siri went once as an individual. As far as regional postseason, since 2008 or 2009, I would have to double check, we have missed the regionals twice as a team, and both of those years we had an individual compete. So we're definitely, we've established ourselves as one of the strongest in our region.
You're muted, Jerry.
And Meredith mentioned 3 Coaches of the Year for the Lone Star Conference. That would have been 2008, 2015, and last year in 2018. She doesn't like to toot her horn very well, but she has the accolades to do so.
Follow-up question. Meredith, where will the national tournament be next year? I want to go ahead and get a hotel reservation next year.
Okay, so the regional championship, I'll start with that first, is going to be in Denton at my course golf club. It's at Robes. We played there this fall. We're going again next fall to learn the course. And after we win the regionals, then we will go to the national championship at TPC, Michigan. And we're going to go play the national preview we got invited to. And we're going to go play the national preview.
So that goes into the next question, Meredith. So next year you have a really strong squad coming back. You'll even have a pair of you have some sisters playing together. Just give us a brief overview of what you have on the squad next year and kind of what you're expecting from that group.
Okay, so like we mentioned earlier, Lookie and Holly are going to return to be super seniors and work on their masters at WT. We have 2 other returners from this year, Alyssa Campbell from South Carolina and Rachel Huffman from Andrews, Texas. And we have 3 incoming freshmen, one of whom is Lookie's little sister. And her nickname, I should say, is Gam, G-A-M. Their personalities are very different, but she's a very strong player, and I'm really excited to have her on the team.
Meredith, you mentioned a senior or 2, but talk about your senior class, because they've been with you 4 years, sometimes 5 in certain instances, come in from all over the United States and the world, but your team always seems to be so tightly bonded, and I know those seniors mean a lot.
They really do. It was an interesting year when they came in. As freshmen, they established themselves on the top 5 immediately. I believe, barring injury, they all played every event for us for 4 years. And they were the strongest freshman class in the country their freshman year. Now, when they came in, we had, I think, 9 girls on the team that year. That roster is way too big. We got in trouble the year before with some injuries. Kaylin Milholland was hurt as a freshman and had to miss some time, and it really put us in a jam. So I got a bigger roster, and those 3 really did great. A couple of the others we had to cut after the first year. I like my roster to be at about 6 or 7, so that it creates that tight-knit bond. Even if they're not in the top 5 as a freshman or sophomore, they still get to travel. We're able to do that in our budget. It costs a lot of money. Most coaches don't do that, taking individuals to tournaments, but it really helps with the team bond, and it gets them that experience they need so that when they are on the top 5, it's not like they're a freshman. You know, they have all of that.
All right, Jonathan O'Neill, you have a question.
Okay, cool. Hey, Meredith. Everything's going great. I wanted to ask kind of how things have changed with kind of like remote coaching and just kind of how you keep your team practicing, and, you know, even like with what you would be doing right now, usually not being able to do that, like with recruiting, getting ready for the season, things like that.
Okay, so traditionally when we finish our season, the girls take between 2 weeks to even a month off. And then they hit summer tournaments and start practicing hard, doing the workouts from Coach Ramey throughout. It was really strange because they're still in classes, but every single one of our girls went home except for Jelena. And she was staying here because she has a job lined up at Medina Country Club that she'll be going to next week, actually. But what I've done is just talking with them. A lot of the courses have been closed, so we haven't had traditional practice plans. That's something that I'm going to be giving them, you know, over the next few weeks as courses are opening back up. But for us, the main priority has been be with your family, keep going to your classes, work out, practice when you can, when the resources are available. Because you could chip in your backyard, but it's not really the exact same as going out and playing all the time. I will say I went out with, Jelena's on the call, but I went out and played 9 with her a little while ago, and she hadn't played in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and she played great. I think she shot 1 over when we went out, and you know, so they're at the level where they're not going to lose it. They're at the level where they're not going to lose their postseason break.
And you do
Awesome.
have one of the few sports that are able to work out right now with golf courses being open, because most physical fitness or stadiums are locked up tight.
So, Tascosa Country Club stayed open, Amarillo Country Club. For several of our girls, though, the courses were closed where they live. They've opened back up, and actually the Campbell from South Carolina, one of our players, all day because she's at work at the golf course.
So Meredith, so what's quarantine life for you and your family? What are some things that you've learned about yourself and maybe your family, either good or bad?
So when I went to WT, I earned my teaching degree, and I knew that I wanted to coach and teach high school before I realized I wanted to coach in college. And there was a reason I didn't decide to teach elementary school, because my patience level for teaching kids that have a hard time sitting still or, just want to be somewhere else isn't as great. So I realized I'm probably a much better coach than I am a homeschool mom.
Yeah, I'm glad my kids aren't that age, because I don't know what I would do. All right,
Tyson, if you want some, I can send them to your house. We've been isolated. They don't have it. They could come.
I have a 4-year-old, so a 3-year-old, so I don't know if I don't need that much energy. So we have quite a few, current and former players on the Zoom call, which is always great to see. I'm going to ask them if they can share a funny story about Meredith. Not embarrassing, just a funny story. I know Judy. She probably has a few funny stories. So just whenever you're ready, just share us a funny story or just a memory you have of Meredith as your coach.
I definitely have one. So I remember we were at Nationals my freshman year in Findlay, Ohio, which nothing is really there. And I remember I'm standing on was it the 9th hole? Yeah, the 9th hole on the tee. And I'm behind Kaylin. And so she's hit it left into like the bushes. And coach is up on the cart, and there is like a big ditch with a bridge over it. And she sees Kaylin looking for her ball. So she's obviously like, okay, got to rush over there. Turns the cart, goes speeding onto the bridge, flips the golf cart, ends up underneath, her leg is underneath the golf cart. And I'm standing on the tee like, is that my coach? And I'm like, yeah, that's my coach. Everyone goes running to the golf cart, lifts it up. The screen is cracked. Coach's leg is ankle is swollen in the middle of the first round of the national championship. And I was just like, what do? I walk up there and her ankle is swollen. She has to strap it up. And then somehow she gets ice on it and carries on coaching the rest of the round like nothing happened. She wasn't in the greatest mood the rest of the day, but I will never forget just seeing that golf cart flip right over on top of her. I mean, it wasn't funny at the time, but now it's funny.
All right, who else has got a funny story? Thank you, Joanna. That's good. I've never heard that one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Lindsay, you should share the one about stealing the van.
Are you talking to me?
Lindsay Coe.
Oh.
I'm driving right now, so I'm trying to be good. Refresh my memory, Judy.
I wasn't on that tournament, but you guys got Alan Coe in on it and stole the van at a hotel.
Oh, the van. Yes, we did. I don't remember where we were, but it was breakfast. We were getting ready to go out on the course and warm up, and I think Alan had pulled the van around the back of the hotel, and we told Meredith it was stolen. All the clubs were in there, and I think she about had a complete heart attack.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good one. Speaking of the van, I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on Mare's driving skills. I think we've all experienced some good curb checks and maybe sleeping.
Lindsay,
I honestly can't think of one tournament where coach didn't have at least 5 curb checks on the way there and back. I'd say and back.
So her crashing the golf cart's not a surprise. If she's
Not
curb
at all.
checking, if she's curb checking with vans.
You know, since I'm been with coach for 4 years, traveling with her all the time, I can see the difference now that this last year, when she hits the curb, she was just like, versus like the first couple of years, she'd be like, "Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Like this last year, she'd just be like, "Oh."
I can even speak to Meredith's driving because
gosh,
in San
Casey.
Diego, on day one, she begins to drive. And it was quickly after that I realized that I needed to drive the entire time down there if the team wanted to survive.
You know, Casey, that was really because I don't like to drive. So I just wanted you to be the driver and me to be the coach.
It's probably
Fair
better
enough,
that way.
I'll take that.
Everyone else still working in WT, we're just joking. All of us just planned to say this beforehand. Coach is an amazing driver, just so y'all know.
I trust you, Judy. So I have one more question, then we can turn it over to some other people. Meredith, so what's one thing that you do different now as a coach? One or two things, I guess, you do different now as a coach than you did when you first started the program.
So I know that I'm a lot better coach now. And I know Sarah Bass got off the call because her baby was needing her. But she recently told me, I guess it was maybe in the fall we were talking, she goes, "It just seems like you're a really, really good coach now." Sarah was one of my first players, and I'm definitely a better coach because I don't have 3 tiny children at home. They're a little bit more self-sufficient, so that my time management is better. But in addition, one of the things that I've realized is that everybody needs to be coached differently. So like Jelena that's on the call, she does her best at tournaments when she's been playing a lot on the golf course. Lucky likes to hit a lot of balls and feel really confident with her swing before she goes out. Kaylin Milholland, who graduated last year, if you gave her putting drills that were simulating pressure, that's really good for some people. It actually destroyed her confidence and made her putt worse. So learning that they're all unique, kind of like the chess pieces that Coach Dudley gave all of our coaches this year, adapting their practices to that and letting them own more of it, I think has been really beneficial in the learning process and developing me as a coach.
Awesome. Anybody else have a question for Meredith? Jerry.
This isn't aimed to Meredith, but it's about Meredith. Axel, glad you're at WT, and you've been around Meredith for a while, and obviously she's very successful. She's done a great job, very respected. Have you picked up anything from her? Have you learned anything, a couple of things?
Hey, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I can hear you. What's up?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, sorry, I had to come to the other room because my daughter was there watching TV. Something that I've learned from her that I think she's really, really good at is having structure. I think the guys were really needing that at that time. And I kind of see things the same way as Meredith. So she did a really good job in getting the guys more structure. And I can see it with her, how she coaches her team. That was definitely one of the things that she's done really well and that I've learned from. And she kind of alluded to answering one of the questions, but I think my guys really needed, somebody to listen to them and be more of that father. Well, not father, but I guess in this case, mother figure. And I can see how she's done a really good job, really connecting with some of the guys, and I mean, she was coaching the guys really not that long, maybe a couple months before I got here. So it was pretty impressive to me how she was able to create really strong bonds with, especially with some of the guys that really needed it in such a short period of time.
Awesome. Thank you, Axel. Anybody else have a question for Meredith? No?
Yeah, I'll let her brag about Lookie a little more. Lookie, song per set, 3-time All-American. Just tell a little bit about what makes her such a special person.
Okay. Obviously, she's an excellent player. She has big dreams. She wants to play professionally. So getting to have her super senior season and play with her sister will really help her achieve that. But one of the things, she has a very simple swing, really good touch with short game, and she is an excellent putter, even though she's a little too aggressive sometimes. It gives me heartburn. She does what I call tie style putting. So if they don't make the 3-footer, it's probably 3 feet by, and they're going to have it coming back, which creates those palpitations. But overall, one of her strengths is really just her determination. So we have the Ryan Palmer Foundation indoor facility. And in that, we used our camp money from the last couple summer camps to buy a flight scope. This is several years ago. But at the end of last season, Lookie and I analyzed, where she could really gain a stroke or 2 strokes. And it was shots within 100 yards. So she had access to that facility and the flight scope, and she was working at Emerald Country Club last summer, but she worked on the flight scope, dialing in those distances. And last season to this season, her stroke average was over 1 stroke better, which at that level is really hard to attain. And it was primarily because of the focus that she had in actually working towards that goal of it getting better within 100 yards. And so you can actually see that she said she was going to, she focused on it, and she did it. So that's really her strength, because she can do anything that she puts her mind to.
That's true. Only 3-time All-American in progression. Then you can make it 4 next year.
Well, Tyson, we put that in the link on her story about being an All-American. And then my husband was like, "Weren't you a 3-time All-American?"
Uh-oh.
Thinking, and I was.
Yes, she was.
Oh.
But I forgot. And so I said, Lookie was the first.
You're the one that told me you were a 2-time All-American.
I know. It's just like, I don't know how many times I was Coach of the Year. Like, that's not stuff that matters to me. I know that sounds silly. The relationships and getting the most out of the players and helping them achieve their dreams, and they go on and be great moms, like anything that I can help them do, that's my focus. But yeah, she can do it next year and be an All-American and get the record.
Thank you. All right. Anybody have any questions for Coach Jameson before we finish? Well, thank you everybody for jumping on. We appreciate it at WT Athletics. Don't forget, we have Axel Ochoa on Thursday, the men's golf coach. So be sure to come back and learn about Axel. He was quite the golfer himself at Oklahoma Christian. But yeah, we're excited to have Axel on. I believe it's at 11:30, right, Casey? 11:30 on Thursday. Casey will. You should be getting an email with all that information on Thursday morning. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.